So after Cortes saved Aguilar, Cortes and his crew sailed around the Yucatan coast to Mavan, the town of Potocan. On March 22nd, 1519, armed with crossbows, muskets, and cannons, Cortes invaded Potocan. Now, it should be noted that in addition to bringing all of these new weapons to the New World, Cortes actually brought two weapons to the New World that ultimately tipped the scale in his favor once again. The first was the bull mastiff. Now, if anyone remembers my last video about Christopher Columbus, some scholars believe that this was the exact same breed of dog that Columbus and company trained to kill and eat human flesh years earlier in the Caribbean. In addition to that, these war dogs were not only covered in armor, but they were also very terrifying to the natives because they had never seen dogs before. And the second secret weapon they had were horses. Now, I know some of my people back home are going to say, yo, S, horses? Really? That's a secret weapon? And my answer to you will be this. For starters, no native had ever seen horses before. You gotta remember, Cortes was the first person to bring them to the New World. In addition, on the battlefield, most natives thought that the horses were mythological dragons. This psychological advantage also helped tip the scales in his favor. Now, as for the Mayans who tried to defend themselves against Cortes's onslaught, they were all easily killed due to the advanced weaponry that I just mentioned and the psychological warfare that the horses and the dogs and the cannons actually imposed on these people. And after Cortes and his crew murdered just about half of those people, what do you think the first thing he asked for was? And if any of you guys at home actually thought he requested gold, you're wrong. He actually asked for the women. And just like Columbus before him, Cortes and his crew demanded 20 sex slaves for their personal entertainment. Look, when I tell a story, I do my best to leave my personal perspectives at the door, as I don't want to come off as being biased. But I just can't do that today. This is seriously so messed up. And what makes this whole ordeal so crippling and disheartening is that the majority of Cortes's men were actually suffering from sexually transmitted diseases such as gonorrhea and syphilis. And if you think I'm telling a lie, allow me to give you the quote from none other than one of Cortes's men who was actually there on the account. Now, I'm not sure if most people at home are aware that Bernal Diaz Castillo, one of Hernan Cortes's men, actually wrote a 400-page book about all of the horrific things he actually personally saw while he was there on the conquest with Diaz. But luckily for us today, I actually have that book, and I want to give you guys a visual presentation or actually show you right here where that passage is, where he clearly says that a lot of these individuals actually had bubas, which was a term that he referred to as sores that were associated with syphilis. It was actually on page 214. At the end of the page, I want to say paragraph 1. So I'm not even going to go any further and show you the passage about gonorrhea because it's intrinsically worthless at this point and it just makes me nauseous. But what I want to do is to put something into perspective today. Cortes's nasty ass people knew that they were suffering from syphilis and they were burning hard, and then they chose to rape little girls knowing that they would get them sick with syphilis and they would ultimately die. These people are savages. Look, I'm going to do something today that I didn't even do that is totally unorthodox. I'm actually right now going to create a shitometer. I'm sorry, I just got to do it now, and I got to scale these people. I mean, I'm sorry, I got to scale them. I got to scale and see who is, the king or the cream de la crop of bullshit. Right now, as I'm giving you guys this presentation, I think Hernan Cortes, and I don't know if Rican is going to back me on this, but I'm going to say Hernan Cortes is right up there, maybe close, a couple notches below Christopher Columbus in regards to this bullshit, because you're giving little girls syphilis and gonorrhea and having them and forcing them to have sex with you when you know that they're going to be burning and they're ultimately going to die because no cure exists. This is just mind-boggling. And this is why ultimately I'm doing this documentary, because ultimately I can't even rock with history anymore. I can't, because they don't tell you this shit in school. They don't tell you this when you're studying. They give you this whole misconception that these people were, conquerors and they conquered the land and they took it over, but they don't give you the real raw truth. They don't tell you that they were forcing little girls to have sex with them when they were sick and they knew that they were suffering from gonorrhea and chlamydia, or gonorrhea and syphilis.